Hello and welcome to the 9-part How Do I video series on Microsoft WebMAtrix. You are currently watching part 6 of this series, How Do I Create a Web Interface in WebMatrix to allow the users to add the data. In this example, we will demonstrate how to create a web interface in WebMatrix that allows the users to add data to the website and then load the data into the database to reflect the changes in the website. Before we start creating a web interface, let's have a look at the final result of part 5 of the series. The page shows the details of the movies that we entered in the database. Now let's start with creating a web interface for the movies site. To do this, create a new CS_HTML page and name it addmovie.cshtml. Then replace the content of this page with a heading. Now go back to the datamovies.cshtml page and enter an anchor tag before the closing div tag. This anchor tag will provide the reference of the addmovie.cshtml page. After this, run the datamovies.cshtml page in the web browser to see the result. It shows the newly created hyperlink on the page. Then click this link. It will open the addmovie.cshtml page in the web browser. Now close the window. Next, let's start with creating a new form for the movie site. To do this, navigate back to the addmovie.cshtml page. Here, enter a form tag after the h1 tag. Then enter 3 input controls within the form tag. Each control is given a name, which will be the variable that the server uses to store the value entered by the user. Next, enter one more input control with the type submit to define the submit button. When the user clicks this button, the HTTP post action will be invoked and the data that the user entered will be sent to the server. Now let's see how to handle the data from the form. To do this, add a code block at the top of the addmovie.cshtml page to set up some server variables. Next, let's add the code to assign the values of the form fields to the corresponding variables. Then add the SQL insert command to add the data to the database. After this, let's call the open method to open the movies database and then call the execute method on the database to tell it to run the insert SQL statement. As a result, the values get added to the database. Next, let's call the response.redirect method. It will redirect the user back to the page to view the results of what they just added. After this, run the addmovie.cshtml page in the web browser to see the result. It shows a form on the page with 3 text boxes and 1 submit button. Now enter the movie name in the first box, then enter the category in the second box, and finally enter the release year in the third text box. Then click the Add Movie button. As a result, the server adds the data to the database and then redirects back to the movies list to see the results. The new movie has been added. This sample application shows how you can create an HTML form to handle the input from the user and add the values directly to the database. Also, it shows how to redirect the user back to the list page in order to see the data that has been added. Thanks for watching the video, hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Hello and welcome to the 9-part How Do I video series on Microsoft WebMatrix. You are currently watching part 4 of the series, How Do I Use the Layout Features in WebMatrix. In this example, we will demonstrate how to use the layout features in WebMatrix to put all of the common HTML code, such as the header and footer content, into one location and have it automatically generated for different web pages. Before we start applying these features, let's have a look at the final result of part 3 of the series. The page is showing the header, footer, and movie names with all of the CSS styles applied on it. In this part of the series, we will create various dynamic web pages to use the layout features. So let's continue to apply these features on the movies site. Let's begin with creating the first dynamic web page. To do this, click New and then click New File. The New File dialog box opens up. Here select CS_HTML as the file type and name it movies.cshtml. Then click OK. The movies.cshtml file opens up with the basic HTML code. After this, replace the content of this page with the movies list div that is specified in the default.html. Now run the page in the web browser to see the result. The page works fine even without including the basic HTML tags such as head and body. Next, let's create a new page named pageheader.cshtml and copy everything that is above the movies list div from the default.html into the new page created. To do this, click New and then click New File. The New File dialog box opens up. Here select CSHTML as the file type and name it pageheader.cshtml. Now enter the code that is above the movies list div from the default.html into the pageheader.cshtml page. Similarly, create a new page named pagefooter.cshtml and copy everything that is below the movies list div from default.html into it. Next, we will use the razor syntax to dynamically add the header and footer. The razor syntax allows us to write inline code on the page using the C# language. The razor and HTML codes can be differentiated by using the @ character. This character is placed before any lines of the code that are instructions to the server regarding what to do. So let's apply the razor code by implementing the render page commands in the movies.cshtml file. The render page commands will cause the server to load the HTML from the specified page name and enter the razor code at this place within the current file. Now run the page in the web browser to see the result. The page shows the same header and footer that are specified in the pageheader.cshtml and pagefooter.cshtml files. Next, let's create a layout to be used as a template for every page and then include the specific content in this page. To do this, create a new CSHTML page and name it _sitelayout.cshtml. Replace the content of this page with the default.html page. Now remove the movies list div and replace it with the render body command. This command will render the content of the movies list.cshtml page at this location. After this, remove the render page commands from the movies.cshtml file. Next, let's see how to implement the functionality of the _sitelayout.cshtml page in the movies.cshtml page. To do this, create a new CSHTML page and name it as _pagestart.cshtml. This page will be called whenever any CSHTML page is opened in the web browser. Now replace this code to set the layout variable so that the layout of the entire site can be driven by the _sitelayout.cshtml page. Now run the movies.cshtml page in the web browser to see the result. The page shows the similar results as earlier. Next, let's create another page named about.cshtml. Replace the content of this page with some new headings. Now run this page in the web browser to see the result. The page shows the same header and footer along with the new content. This sample application shows how you can use the built-in layout mechanism in WebMatrix to build the sites easily by taking all the common code for all your pages and putting it into the layout files. Also, it shows how to use the razor syntax for programming different web pages and creating a powerful layout engine. Thanks for watching the video, hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Hello and welcome to the 9-part How Do I video series on Microsoft WebMatrix. You are currently watching part 7 of this series, How Do I Create an Edit Data Page in WebMatrix. In this example, we will demonstrate how to modify the existing data in WebMatrix by creating an Edit Data Page and using a parameter to initialize this page with the desired record. Before we start creating the Edit Data Page, let's have a look at the final result of part 6 of the series. The page shows a form that the user can use to add new movies to the database. Now let's begin with creating a new form to edit the existing list of movies. To do this, create a new CSHTML page and name it as editmovie.cshtml. Then replace the content of this page with some headings specified in the H1 tag. Next, enter a form tag after the H1 tag. Then enter 4 input controls within the form tag. The first 3 input controls are used to enter the values of the movie name, category, and release year, and the last input control is used to save all these values in the database. Next, let's call the Edit Movie CS.html page from the datamovies.cs.html page. To do this, navigate back to the datamovies.cs.html page. Here, modify the hyperlink to go to the editmovie.cs.html page. Also add the code to find the particular record by passing the ID value as a parameter. Next, in the Edit Movie page, let's add the code to modify the existing records. To do this, navigate back to the editmovie.cs.html page. Here, enter the code to find out the value of the parameter ID using the request object. This code will create a local variable named ID and will use the value of the parameter ID to initialize this variable. Next, let's apply the select query to find out the details of the particular movie. Now let's call the database.open method to open the database and call the db.querySingle method to get a single record from the database. Next, initialize the values of the variables with the corresponding form fields. Then pass the values of the variables in the request object. Next, use the SQL update command to update the database. After this, let's call the db.execute method to execute the update command, and then finally call the response.redirect method to redirect the page back to the movies list screen. Now run the datamovies.cs.html page in the web browser to see the result. It shows the movies list with all the details. Here, select any one of the movies to modify its details. The Edit Movie form opens up. Here, let's edit the value of the release year for the selected movie. Then click the Edit Movie button. As a result, the database will be updated and the page will be redirected to the movies list screen where you can see the updated list of movies. This sample application shows how you can modify the existing data by creating an edit data page. Also, it shows how to use the razor code to initialize the form with the correct values from the database and then redirect back to the movies list to see your updates instantly. Thanks for watching this video, hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.